One of the first joints you'll learn how to cut as a woodworker is the miter joint. It's used in projects ranging from picture frames to small boxes to even larger cabinetry like TV stands. Learning how to accurately cut the miters isn't that difficult. There's just a few basic steps you're going to need to follow. So let's dive right in. The most important step is the first one, and that is to dial in your table saw. So to begin, if you're using a miter gauge, it needs to be perfectly perpendicular to the blade. Take a square and place it up against the blade, referencing the fence of your miter gauge. If it looks good, make a test cut and then check the workpiece. You shouldn't see any light in between the square and the edge of your wood. If you do, you will need to adjust your miter gauge. One of the most important steps in making a box, a square box that is making sure the sides are the same exact length. If one side is longer than the other three, it's really going to throw everything off, so make sure that they are the same length. I'm using my miter gauge with a stop block. Since the final length of the piece is 6 inches, I'm cutting each piece to 6.5 inches long, which will give me some extra room to cut the miters on the other end. This demo is not going to cover continuous grain wrapping, as it's a video about cutting the miters. I'll link to a video below from Guy's Wood Shop where he shows you how to do that. With the miter gauge dialed in, we can now focus on the blade angle. Start tilting the blade and then using a square or a digital angle finder, stop the blade at 45 degrees. Now make a practice cut and double check that it's actually cutting at 45 degrees. If you've not yet picked up on the theme of this video, it's to test all the things. I begin by cutting a miter on one end of the piece. Next, I measure 6 inches from the mitered edge and make a mark. I place that mark up against the kerf mark on my fence and slide the stop block into place. Now I can cut the rest of the pieces by placing their mitered edges up against the stop block. To glue up the pieces, I like to use tape. Since the pieces are small, the tape adds plenty of clamping pressure. Laying the pieces face down, I place them in a line, edge to edge, and then I put tape from end to end. Now I flip them over, place glue in the miters, and then fold it up. The tape will wrap around 3 of the 4 corners, so I tear off another piece of tape and then place it over to the last corner. Now I typically pre-finish the insides of my boxes before glue up, not only because it's easier to finish, but also because it helps with the glue squeeze out. But since I didn't pre-finish this box, I'll take a toothbrush and spray just a little bit of water on it and lightly scrub the corners. Make sure the brush isn't soaking wet, as you don't want the water to get in the miters. Now let's just let the box set to the side for a few hours to dry. So as you can see with the steps I've outlined in the video, you should be able to cut some really awesome miters. I just took the tape off of the box, and without sanding it or removing any of the glue squeeze out, I wanted to show you what the box looked like in its rough form. The miters are nice and tight, and the box is perfectly square on the inside. With the bottom and the lid, you have yourself a nice box, and you can use these same steps for picture frames and even larger projects. So now don't forget that the miter joints are an end grain to end grain glue joint, and depending on the size of the project, you're going to need some reinforcement, whether that's miter splines or miter keys or some other method. There's several ways to reinforce them. With these basic steps, you now have the accuracy and the repeatability to cut perfect miters every time. I know I really struggled when I first started woodworking and tried to cut a picture frame or a box. The miters just did not come together, and there's nothing more frustrating than wasting good material on bad joinery. Give this a try in your shop and you'll be making boxes in no time. I hope you learned a thing or two from this video. Thanks for watching.